afternoon, legends. We're back for our last two games of round 23. Our Sunday ones. It's going to be my weekly therapy with you guys after a pretty poor day fantasy-wise for myself, and some throwbacks to amazing players from the start of the year. And it's been a month basically of Bryce Cartwright and Jackson Ford, two guys that we've had from the start, and we should have held the whole way through, because Cartwright has ended up being a 754k guy. And obviously there was a bit of a tough month or so in the middle there where he was getting put on the bench and all that, but yeah, since then, he's in this last month, especially since he's got that 80 minutes back, he's been super dominant down that side with Moses there and without as well when he was in playing Origin. There's been a lot going on, obviously, with injuries and stuff, and it shows that can happen with certain players, that they could lose their spot for a week or two, and then they're back into it long term. And then there's other options and other examples with like Brendan Hands where you think, oh, okay, he's got this spot locked in now, and then they just decide to bring someone over from overseas, and Joey Lussick comes in and he becomes the guy that's a really good option in our team. So super frustrating for that on my part. Obviously, it didn't matter. I wouldn't have been playing him in this, but it just shows that what can happen across the season. And if we did hold Cartwright and Ford all this way, we've got an 88 and a 66 or whatever it is, but from those two, from the start of the season, which is very, very cool. So shout out to Cartwright. He's really just some of the coming through the grades, and as a young fella was the best thing since last spread, and he's come in and actually showed after a few years of mediocrity and hardly playing that he can actually still play, which is very, very cool. So even with them unberthing Cartwright, the Eels, they still suck. And 26-20 victory here over the Dragons. They were in a really bad spot, down 16-6, and it looked like Dragons were probably going to win this when they went up to 20, and they were able to come back, thankfully for them. A lovely try from Junior Paulo as well. With this 74, big minutes for him at 62. We knew this was going to happen with Madison. Obviously, you probably take out the try assist there. That he gets a random one here or there, but even if you take that out, I thought he was going to be about a 60 player. He always ends up somewhere around that 60 in base, and then chuck in a couple of tackle breaks or an offload and a few negatives in there, and he's that 60 guy. So he was awesome for his 69. Big shout out to Ravalawa. A try saver, turnover tackle with 4 tries in that as well for 82. Big matchup for him. Hopgood, 68 and 58 minutes here. So he's just absolutely getting through his work. 46 tackles in 58 minutes is very, very impressive. Obviously, a lot of that first half, he was tackling his heart out because the Dragons were comfortably winning this matchup, which was solid for them. And they've actually played fairly well, to be honest, since the issue come out with Ben Hunt wanting a release. I thought it would really fall apart, and they've actually done pretty well. And it's a mixture of a few of these players that anyone who's come in at the moment has absolutely done a job. You see Dan Russell with his 57. He comes in and he just works hard. He tackles hard and he runs hard when he gets the chance. And he ended up with a line break and a try assist as well. And that was basically all of his 41 meters, which was funny. But you look at Ben Hunt's been still trying his ass off, which is good. Blake Laurie's been a real revelation for him this year, especially. And then guys like Billy Burns and Jacob Little are really trying their hearts out. So, good to see from the Dragons side of things, and shows that, they almost beat Manly last week, and that, it was no fluke. Manly aren't playing amazingly, but it shows that they're able to stick in games and play longer than 20 minutes, which they were, straight after the Ben Hunt issue came about. But Hunt's been it's been a much better year for him. He's up 40k for the year, so he started really well last year and then kind of petered away into a bit of an average, very, very, very average second half of the season, and he's kind of held steady. He still has his low game in him, but he's missing less tackles than he was last time. Dan Russell, what about the cash down he's become? Especially as some good cover on the edge, but a playable player, a 40 plus guy each and every week, and I hope that it looked like there was a lot of those trades this week to try and get Cleary in. So it was like JDB and who was the option? Buller was one of them. Who was the guy that was out? There was a 500k guy that was out or whatever. Yes, anyway, as a trade down, or Sandon Smith down to Dan Russell, some of that. So that worked out great for anyone who did that. I wish I was in that basket and picked him over Jesse Colquhoun, that's for sure, especially because he's not playing. It's a frustrating one. How that's ended up, that's for sure, when I could have done it. But Joey Lussick becomes an option, guys. If you're not too worried about Parramatta having their bye in the last round, then he's definitely a guy that we've seen when he has played big minutes before. He's a 40-plus guy in the sort of 70 to 80 minutes, and that's going to happen from here on. You can see you're just going to tackle his heart out. Got a turnover tackle, 39 run meters. It'll be very, very similar to that of hands, but look like he'll miss a few less tackles than what Brennan was at this stage. So that's that. For those that have held Moses, it's been nothing special to be honest. In the last couple of weeks, of 50 odd and a 50, you're very much wanting 60 from him. So a little bit down, but nothing crazy. Obviously, you still take the 50, but yeah, not excited with how the Eels are playing, and yeah, I doubt we're going to get really good scores from Moses just for that reason. Yeah, it's going to be very, very hard for him to score really well fantasy-wise when their team is struggling. And we see someone like Gutherson, he really just tries his heart out. Even's getting in there with 10 tackles, which is more than a lot of centers end up with at fullback. The big run meters and always is in everything. So he gives himself an opportunity. I think this is his best fantasy season. He seems to be about a 42, 43 kind of guy, and a 46.5 now. In a year where they aren't as good this year as they were last. He's had to do a lot more, I think. The return of Dylan Brown, he was solid. He had a line breaker try assist as well, but overall wasn't his best game either. He was fine defensively. There, his left side seems to get caught out a little bit, even though he's an individually decent defender. He did miss one that ended up to it with a try. So yeah, first game back, a lot of noise, a lot of head noise obviously at the moment. So yeah, you can't expect him to come back and absolutely dominate straight away, but you would hope for a little bit more. Obviously, Bird there, 50 in the 80 minutes. If you're still holding him, then great. But if you don't, I wouldn't be looking to grab him. Just very happy that he could get through the full 80. Hopefully his knee is okay and doesn't blow up completely. Given I don't think he played at all last week, so that would have been why that he could come in and actually get a game in. Likely because of his knee. And we've seen that he's come back for one game and then he's cooked. So we'll see what happens. Little there, 42. Just the missed tackles was his big issue in this one. A lot of fantasy relevant players. Hey, Penasini in my squad, 5 missed tackles in the end. He was doing really well. I think it was 10 tackles for 1 miss or something, and then kind of missed a bunch over the next period. And just so many passes that end up at his bootlaces, or they're like Cartwright. He gets credited with a 4-point offload for one that he passed it into his ankle, or into his knee at very close range. Just in traffic, there was no chance that Penasini was going to take it. Penasini gets the error, and Cartwright gets 4 points. So, there's those things as well that sometimes happen in a game, especially fantasy-wise. It's that didn't really help the team, but you still get all these points, and the other person just cops it because they were the one that actually dropped it. It was similar to that with Hines that week, that he had a shocker and he still got 60 because he had, offloads and passes that went over blokes' heads and they got the error instead of Hines. So I suppose it swings and roundabouts, right? But 35, it could have been a lot worse. He did end up with a turnover tackle right at the end and a 3-point upgrade. So in updates, which was good, we'll take that. You look at Zach Lomax in a game that they played pretty well, the Dragons, and he only ends up with a 34. Especially in a game where his counterpart Ravalawa got 4 tries, you would have expected Lomax to actually probably dominate a little bit more with some offloads, with some line break assists. But he just had the 1 offload and 1 try assist in this one. The meters gained was the big issue here. So he was being up to over 200 every week and getting lots of tackle breaks and offloads, and that wasn't the case here. And he had a few more negatives on that front, unfortunately. What else do we have here? That's basically it, isn't it? Davey copped another head injury assessment, but he came back, and then they played Widemu Greg 8 minutes. So yeah, interesting welcome back for him. 8 minutes, he made 50 meters. So I think it was one set there. He made a couple of runs, which was interesting. But he was a really good player before that all happened. Okay, fairly low scoring. No real standouts, obviously. A few 50s in there and a couple of 60s from the relevant players, which was good. Ian Tuppeny and also Horsburgh. So Horse kind of stuck around that 60 point for a good while in there. He ended up playing the full 80. So with the score being so close, with them needing to win this one really to stick inside that top 6, which is hilarious that that Souths and Eels and Cowboys and who else is there? Sharkies are struggling so much, and the Raiders just seem to still always 1-12, 1-10, 1-8, whatever it is. Super close games at all times, and thankfully both him, Horsburgh and Tuppeny were needed very muchly. And if you own both of them, you're very happy with the output there, 63 and 61, with Tuppeny getting a bunch of his tackle breaks and offloads that we're used to seeing from him on a regular basis. Seb Chris back to centre, his favourite position, obviously, with 2 tries in 51 minutes. He was actually on track for a big score, bigger than whatever he scored in centres before. So maybe playing at fullback is giving him a bit more confidence. And he's still a young player in this league, and he was kind of just coming into his own at centre before they moved him back to the fullback slot. So he's by far exceeded most people's expectations. People were putting him in as their 2021 player, as a dual position guy that was really cheap, and in a pinch, you'd have to play him. And we saw all of his scores like 15, 20, 18, 19, 23. And then he's just absolutely boomed the last month. So it shows that things can work out well at certain times if you pick them at the right time with a little bit of luck, hey? Brooksy, Rapana, decent scores. Whiten, their Fogs as well. Again, it's really, this is where all the therapy comes in. It's just, we're past the first top 10 scorers, and our boys, Bateman and Papali'i, are not in there. And let's start with Papali'i. It's just disgusting watching the output from him. Obviously, the work ethic, running, you end up with 165 meters. He just doesn't get good ball. He gets terrible. He's just out of his own trouble, out of his own end. There's a lot of that going on. But defensively, he's just not there. He used to be a 40 tackle guy for one miss, 40 tackle for no misses. And he's gotten a lot lazier, I think, playing in the Tigers, and obviously a little bit more of a disjointed defensive line for sure. But he's not the same player. And credit to the Eels for the way they developed their back rowers, because Papali'i was, he was okay at the Warriors, and he came over. It was on no one's radar and became pretty much the best back rower in the league. And then you could say that Cartwright right now is one of the better back rowers in the league form-wise. You can't argue that. For the most part, like, he's doing everything he can in a pretty poor Eels side. And then Papali'i comes over here and he doesn't get good ball, for one. And then defensively, he's just not the same player. So, yeah, fantasy-wise, he's just fallen off a cliff, obviously. And I was just listening to Talking League Boys, Brenton and TK there. It's a really nice show on Sundays. Should check that one out. But they were talking about him, and it was like, yeah, if you had multiple trades, like 4+, then you could entertain trading him out. But at 660k, like, unless you're upgrading, of course, if you upgrade another 100k or so, you're going to get someone better. But he's a frustrating one, because if you have a full 17, then maybe you're trying to loop him. And I do know a few people that actually didn't have to play him in the end, that have a very sort of stacked 19 or so, and he became, break glass in case of emergency. Like, you could use him if someone failed, and all the loopers and everyone did really well, so they didn't need to use him in the end. So that's where IPAP is, and it's just frustrating there. Obviously, Bateman there, the 43 as well. So, yeah, had a pretty solid first half, 29, I think he was at halftime, and it didn't get any better. So, yeah, a few negatives, and just not much happening. Low tackles numbers in this game. Like, there's no one here apart from Horsburgh. He played the full 80 minutes and still only got 45 tackles. He got 70 minutes the game a couple of weeks ago and got 60 tackles. So, just one of those games, lots of errors. I think Raiders complete at 65%. And still won. So, yeah, just so much less time in play, which just didn't help. So, a lot of mid-20s tacklers and 36 for Whitehead. So, yeah, you can see why Bateman and also Papali'i didn't score well. Is more for that fact there. Most of the points that guys like Tarpany got were through attacking stats, offloads, and tackle breaks, and that wasn't to be in this game. So, yeah, surely they're better for the run. But, in a day where I got Penasini 35, Bateman 43, and Papali'i 39, when other people are getting Payne Haas for 83 and stuff. It's just it's a very yuck one. It's a very big difference, that's for sure. And then you got Matt Timoko as well, 38. So you end up with a try line break, which kind of saved his score. It was going to the other centre in Seb Chris. So 38 for Timoko, you'll take. Coruscant's the other issue there at 31. So as I said, he's very much the boom or bust guy. 70 odd the week before, 31 in this. And please just try and loop him if you own him, or if you're thinking about grabbing him. He still went up 18k with that 31, and is out of my reach definitely now, if I was looking at him for sure. I think I could have got him by 1k last week. And then Dream Buller, so 19k down again, 23 points. If you were hoping for a good score from him, unfortunately it wasn't to be with the 23, but I suppose that's very much his low, isn't it? He's still going to be a lot better than that. So we'll get into our round results in the next video, guys. Round 23 is done, so we have 4 rounds to go. Hopefully you did well in your prelims if you had them. A couple of my leagues did not. I believe I won 1 or 2 of mine that had them. I don't think I lost any of my... Actually, I lost 1. Scratch that. He killed it. I think got almost like 1,200 or something. So, yeah. Thankfully, that's a good thing. If you can come first or second in your leagues, you get another crack. But, hope you went well this week, guys. If you have any questions, jump in the YouTube comments, obviously, or in the DMs. I'll be able to help you out. But thank you for watching all the way through to round 24. It's about to be now. See you guys.